as you go up the valley towards Everest, you just keep going higher and higher. All of a sudden, here you are, in between the biggest mountains in the world.
In the shadow of Mount Everest, there's only one way to get rescued, but the death zone is the most dangerous place in the world.
You are at the limit of what the machine can do. Everybody up there is dying slowly.
When disaster strikes at the top of the world,
Oh my God!
a rare breed of pilots put their lives on the line to save those facing certain death.
When someone hangs on the long line, the wind will catch them and they'll start swinging. It's crazy.
We're not supposed to take extra risks. Had he stayed where he was, he would be dead.
He was breathing so heavily.
Sometimes we have to break own rules to save the life of someone.
At this altitude, there's no margin for error.
The helicopter wants to be upside down.
If you go over that fine line, you're asking for trouble.
The smallest mistake only adds to the body count.
Oh my God, no! I don't want to think about that too much. It does make me happy that I did my part. I just hope we don't come across dead bodies.
Doesn't matter what you pray to or what you believe in. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Known as the gateway to Everest, the village of Lukla is home base for elite helicopter pilots who take on the highest rescues in the world. "42-year-old Ryan Skorecki is the latest to join the team.
I didn't really know what to expect. Even though I talked to a lot of people about coming here, no one had mentioned to me, hey, be prepared for this. The weather, the altitude, it's more risky than flying over flat ocean.
This airport is considered the most dangerous in the world. Fatal crashes on its short and steep runway have killed 35 people in 12 years.
Bad enough that the runway just terminates into a mountain, but they've got a hotel right at the end of the runway. Lukla is kind of crazy. Like, wow, this is controlled chaos. That's Wild West. This is a controlled place. You know, what are these other spots that we're gonna go to gonna be like?
I know what it's like, you know. I made a decision to get airborne. And
New Zealand pilot Jason Lang has been flying in the Himalayas for 5 years. Everest rookie Ryan trusts his advice.
I understand, Ryan, when I first started here, I'd get quite nervous. I don't know if it's the most difficult place in the world, but probably is.
There's an emergency call. An American climber named Kent Stewart is in critical condition at Everest Base Camp.
Private Delta is ready for departure.
He may be having a heart attack. Ryan must reach him as quickly as possible.
Climbing the highest mountains on the planet has risks. You know, if someone's gonna get into trouble, they will not get down the mountain alive unless we fly them down right now.
Okay, here we go.
Ryan is flying into the world's highest mountain range. He heads 25 miles up the Khumbu Valley, where Everest Base Camp sits at almost 18,000 feet. It's the highest he's ever flown.
Yeah, landing that high, I think I was more nervous than excited.
At extreme altitude, choppers can't create as much lift as they can at sea level. Flying helis here was once thought impossible until the arrival of a new high-performance machine, the B-3E. It can fly up to 23,000 feet, but even this aircraft has its limit.
The altitude makes it one of the toughest places to fly.
Pilots face a constant calculation of weight, elevation, and weather.
We figure out, okay, we're gonna land this high, the machine weighs this much, I weigh this much, I'm gonna have this much fuel, and whatever's left is the weight of what we can carry.
Calculate wrong, and the results can be lethal.
We have some of the most powerful single-engine helicopters that are in existence, and they run out of power. You don't have that problem at lower elevations.
If the engine fails, the outcome could be catastrophic.
Up that high, you have a whole host of problems. The amount of time you have to react is decreased. You don't want the engine to quit.
To rescue Kent, Ryan has to overcome his biggest challenge yet, landing at Mount Everest.
Just because you can fly at one altitude doesn't mean you can land at that altitude. It's an added risk.
Everest Base Camp has a grim history of crash landings and fatal accidents.
As you go up higher and higher, and the air gets thinner and thinner, the amount of power that the engine is going to produce is going to keep decreasing. As you're landing, you're slowing down, and it's taking more and more power. At a certain point, you're going to hit that limit on what's going to happen is the helicopter is just going to start descending.
Base camp. See what the wind's doing here.
We're operating machines at the limit of what they'll do.
Okay, we make a pass.
I definitely have this fear of like screwing up. You're sent there to try and help somebody out. If you have a problem, then not only did you not help that person out, but now you've created an even bigger problem.
Base camp 9, Lima Delta. I see people. Those flags are showing strong up valley wind. Oh, very weird wind. Oh, come on. It's gusty. Gusty and confused. Damn it. Wind, very, very bad. Get a little lower. Oh, shoot. Then we got a problem.
"100 miles away, Jason is in Nepal's capital city, Kathmandu, with his partner Robin and one-year-old daughter Tara.
Wish me luck for the season, Robin. Hey?
Already
Hey,
have.
Tara. To have Robin and Tara here this season, it's fantastic.
Jason is very passionate. He loves flying, and he gets itchy and antsy if he doesn't fly for a few days.
I've always been looking for challenges, I suppose. Things off the beaten track.
Jason lives in Kathmandu for 2 months a year during peak climbing season. He's on call at all times. In 2015, one of those calls was the worst of his career.
Oh my God!
A massive earthquake struck Nepal, killing almost 9,000 people. 22 died at Everest Base Camp. Jason was one of the first on the scene and flew dozens of rescue and recovery missions.
We're quite stunned to see that there was such devastation. I was very sad to see all that death. When I do get a call, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I have to drop everything and go. Snell, I'll come into the airport now. I may get a call at any moment, and Robin understands that.
There's a serious rescue needed in one of the Himalayas' most hostile areas.
Right, you take it, I'm going to work.
Okay.
I have had people say to me, "Oh, your job is so dangerous." Well, I plan to come home every day. I have a family. Yep. Right, see ya.
Do you want to take a chips?
I better get going. I'll see you when I'm looking at you. She knows it's not easy at times. A lot of the time I don't know what I'm going to do every day.
Each time Jason leaves, Robin has no idea when he'll come home.
There's been a few helicopter accidents, and he realises he's got some home responsibilities he's got to look after. precious ones.
Jason's got just 4 hours to find 2 German and 18 Nepali climbers. Snowstorms destroyed their camp, leaving them lost and stranded on a 21,000-foot cliff. Overnight temperatures drop well below freezing. With no food and shelter, the climbers may not survive.
You can't ask me what's happening because I don't exactly know.
You have something on that?
There are no accurate coordinates, but the pilots narrow the search to a treacherous mountain region 200 miles away.
It's hard to plan for the unknown. You have to be extremely careful, otherwise you're asking for trouble.
Jason and Chief Pilot Siddhartha Gurung have years of experience flying at Nepal's high altitudes.
I don't know the exact details, but what they said was the camp was blown away this morning by high winds.
They're on a trekking track to a remote part north.
This trek is one of the remotest, very difficult. If they don't have food and shelter, that's it for them.
We've got to find them as quick as possible. Well, if they're stranded there, they could all get hypothermia. It's all bad from there. Let's go, let's get out of here.
Rescue pilots Jason and Siddhartha are looking for 20 missing climbers who've been stranded for hours at 21,000 feet without food or shelter.
This is quickly info. Helicopter Lima Papa.
They're searching a remote region in the vast Himalayan range, which spans 6 countries and 230,000 square miles. The team's taking 2 choppers 200 miles northwest of Kathmandu.
Very serious. They're very remote. Not like the Everest Valley. The Everest Valley, there's a lot of help close by.
But there are no accurate coordinates. It will be dark in 4 hours. Freezing nighttime temperatures increase the risk of hypothermia and death.
It's getting more urgent. It's going to get cold, and if they're ill-equipped, if they haven't got tents, they could start getting in serious trouble here.
Sarabum is unfamiliar territory, so Jason brings reinforcements.
So we've got Bivak here, and Turing is here as well.
But unpredictable Himalayan weather could be a serious obstacle.
The clouds are building. It's 20 to 2 in the afternoon. You know, by 4 o'clock it may be just too cloudy.
Poor visibility is the rescue pilot's biggest and deadliest threat.
One of the things I'm worried about is getting caught out above weather. When it starts changing under you, that's when it's starting to get serious. You could end up flying into a mountain. It can be catastrophic very quickly.
"170 miles away at Everest Base Camp, Ryan's attempting to fly and land higher than ever before.
I am looking at those gauges, figuring out at these altitudes with these temperatures, what can the machine do?
Get a little lower. Oh, shoot. Okay.
He must rescue climber Kent Stewart, who's critically ill due to low oxygen at extreme altitude.
I'm supposed to pick up a guy named Ant.
He may be having a heart attack. His best chance of survival is getting down fast.
Delta, you found the patient?
No, don't have a passenger yet.
As climbers scale Everest, oxygen decreases by up to 70%, which can cause fatal altitude sickness. The risks drop if climbers ascend slowly over several weeks, allowing the body to gradually adjust.
As we're going higher, as people are working harder to breathe.
It's called acclimation.
If you're not acclimatized, you would die within about 5 minutes if you were dropped off at the top of the summit.
But it doesn't work for everyone. Altitude sickness is the biggest killer of climbers in the Himalayas. Unacclimated, Ryan is fed oxygen through a tube, but his supply is limited.
For us to not be on oxygen is actually really, really dangerous. If you have a problem up there, that's it. He looked terrible. There's one cure for altitude sickness, and it's not staying where you're at. You gotta go down. It's this race against the clock.
Kent's lungs are filled with fluid, a condition known as pulmonary edema. It's an extreme form of altitude sickness.
All right, here we go.
It could also be causing a heart attack.
Yeah, hopefully feel a little better when we're 7,000 feet lower.
For any chance of survival, Ryan needs to get Kent to a lower elevation as fast as possible.
Yeah, none of it out as beam Namche 1,500 descending.
Just because they're sitting there doesn't mean they're not dying.
When we get back, there's going to be an ambulance that'll meet you, and then you go to the hospital. Best wishes. Nice meeting you. See you back.
When I got to Everest Base Camp, something wasn't right. I had no energy and tightening in the chest feeling, and I was actually concerned about that I would maybe having a heart attack, which was scary.
Safely back down at 4,500 feet, Kent is rushed to the hospital.
Given the altitude and what those pilots have to do to get up there to evacuate you or rescue you is amazing to me.
We get to Kathmandu, he's walking around, but had he stayed where he was, he would be dead.
As we're getting into the hills now, you can see that the fog is right down.
80 miles northwest of Kathmandu, Jason and Siddhartha's crew head deeper into an isolated corner of the Himalayas, hunting for 20 climbers who've been stranded for hours.
Do a mission in a remote region. It's got added pressures of fuel logistics, unforeseen weather conditions, lack of resources. We're out there on our own.
The climbers are somewhere in the Sarabong region, but without accurate coordinates, Jason may never find them.
Okay, let's stay up a bit, because they could be on the terrace, you know? Could they be up this next one or not?
It can be quite daunting at times, the scale of how big everything is there.
They won't be up that one?
Especially when you go into areas you've never been before.
At almost 4 vertical miles above sea level, temperatures can drop to well below zero. With no shelter, the climbers could freeze to death by nightfall. It's thought some also have life-threatening altitude sickness.
When I get told that someone is really serious and that they could die very shortly, I do get impatient. I just want to go, go, go. We went up the most northern glacier. We had a good look up there, but we couldn't see the top of the saddles because of the cloud was obscuring the top.
Not too many options here, is there? We'll go back and have a look at that.
Then we had a look up another glacier beside it, and we couldn't see any sign of footprints or any tents.
The team's been flying for an hour with no sign of the climbers. Fruitless searching is wasting fuel.
Fuel is time in a bottle. It gives us a certain amount of time that we can fly for.
Jason has no choice but to turn back. He needs somewhere to refuel and locates a tiny mountain village.
You can't stretch fuel. You can't make fuel last longer than it can.
For now, The stranded climbers must fend for themselves.
Everything was starting to go the wrong way. Everything was turning against us.
With only 2 hours of daylight left, the odds are worsening by the minute.
If they don't have tents, then it'll be a big problem.
They may all die.
On the first glacier we went up and we turned. Do you think that's the one?
Veteran rescue pilots Jason and Siddhartha must find 20 stranded climbers on the verge of freezing to death, some with life-threatening altitude sickness. But without accurate coordinates, they're wasting time.
The afternoon's ticking away here, and well, we've got to get these guys tonight.
The team attempt to reach the climbers via sat phone, with no luck.
It's 4 o'clock?
Yes, it's
We only have 1 hour.
We just got to keep focused on the task in hand. The lack of information. It's very frustrating. We can't fly without the right coordinates. It could be 20,000 feet we're talking here, so they could be in a lot of trouble.
Siddhartha finally manages to contact the climbers. They now have more precise coordinates.
Okay, so let's go again.
Let's go
Check,
again.
and if you can see and confirm, then we'll come up with a plan.
But they only have 60 minutes to find and evacuate the climbers before sunset.
I try real hard to put all the emotions aside. Darkness isn't too far away. I'm worried they will die tonight.
The freezing climbers are on the edge of a glacier at almost 21,000 feet, pushing the edge of the heli's 23,000-foot limit. As the pilots ascend, the clouds worsen.
So I just want to go forward here, and I just want to go up and just have a little look.
I climbed to 20,000 and we looked back into the mountain where the coordinates were. Unfortunately, the cloud just mushroomed up.
What's the time? What's the time of day?
It's 5 o'clock.
I still want to go up. Go out and then up. But you look after GPS.
Okay.
And you tell me how.
All right. 0.1 mile. We're 0.1 mile. Okay, we're...
100 meters?
Yeah.
It says we're 0.1 mile.
We got as high as we could, just under the cloud. They were 300 feet in front of us and 2,000 feet above. So that's very steep. Too dangerous. You end up flying into the mountain.
At 5 p.m., the weather wins. The clouds won't clear before sunset.
Well, that's it for today, huh?
In Nepal, we're not allowed to fly at night. Even if we could, it's very dangerous because the visibility's not very good.
No, it's all covered up here. Let's go back and land.
Those people are just so close. But we can't fly into cloud. The temptation is to go and have one last look there. I've learned you have to be pretty clean cut with your decisions. It wasn't a very good feeling leaving them there. The helicopter's an amazing piece of machinery. When I'm flying it, it's like an extension of my hand. I just make it do things and I can get a result. But there's many, many different situations that prevent me from doing some things. Yeah.
The guys over there are getting more and more serious. So they are starting to panic and we cannot do nothing for them.
Siddhartha is forced to abandon the mission. He heads to Kathmandu to stand by for other rescues. Jason and the team will wait out the night.
So they're straight up that face. Yeah, just straight up, just on top, but they're 2,000 feet higher than what we were. We know that they're just above us. I'm sure they could hear us.
The climbers must survive overnight in sub-zero temperatures. For those with altitude sickness, the symptoms could soon become critical.
Because of the lack of shelter, they could die very shortly.
The choppers can't fly again until first light.
I try not to think about the climber too much. You know, is he going to die? And I can't do that because yeah, I just got to do what safe.
It's 6 a.m., high in the Himalayas. The lives of 20 stranded climbers depend on Jason and his rescue team.
To the south, I can see at the top of the peaks. Fingers crossed, I'm just hoping that it's not clouded out up there. Didn't really get much sleep, you know, it was quite a long night. It'd be a long night for them. I don't want to think about that too much until we get there. There may be some that don't come through with it. There may be death. When we seen them was just, relief. It wasn't going to be a body recovery, it was going to be a rescue.
This cliff-edge glacier could be unstable. Landing over a ton of helicopter on it calls for extreme precision.
We do put ourselves in a lot of areas doing the rescues there that if there was a failure, it wouldn't be very pretty at the end. But if you thought about that, you wouldn't be there.
Jason is just feet away from the climbers, but decides landing is too risky.
Oh, we can't land there. Now we're in trouble.
It looked very close. There was a lot of loose items. If you ingest one of those into the rotor system, it's catastrophic.
Some of the climbers are too sick to walk. A helicopter is their only way off this glacier.
Time's ticking. I'm feeling the time. Waits for no one.
"60 miles east, Siddhartha and fellow pilot Andy Thapa approach the remote village of Surton with an important delivery. More than half of Nepal has no power. This electrical transformer will change lives. With no road access, it would take over a week on horseback to carry the load.
In Nepal, there are so many remote areas where only helicopter can go.
Due to its bulk, Siddhartha and Andy carry the transformer underneath the chopper, an intricate process known as sling loading.
Sling loading is becoming very important in Nepal. It's the safest and most efficient way to transport bulky and heavy items which people cannot carry by themselves.
If they lose control of the transformer, 1,600 pounds of machine would crash to the village below. With the transformer safely on the ground, they prepare to leave. but they're plunged into an unfolding drama.
This guy comes running from this small help post nearby and requests us like if he can help this woman and child.
A young woman has just given birth. She's badly hemorrhaging. It's a 5-day walk to the nearest hospital, a journey neither she nor her baby would survive.
Like she's suffocating. She's getting very difficult to breathe. She looked very silent, pale. She was not moving. My first priority was Kathmandu as fast as possible because we were running out of time.
She was bleeding so heavily, so she was on drips. So we just had to like put the drips somewhere, like she could get the drips all the time. You have to be able to make quick decisions depending on the circumstances. You see a problem and you find a way to solve it.
In a heartbeat, Siddhartha and Andy turn their helicopter into a makeshift ambulance. The woman needs an immediate blood transfusion and may need surgery. Without treatment, hemorrhage patients can die in less than an hour. Siddhartha and Andy have no choice but to place her on the floor of the helicopter.
Sometimes we have to break own rules to save the life of someone.
She's closing her eyes, but she is losing her pulse. She looks very tired, and hopefully we will be able to reach Kathmandu in time.
It's a 20-minute flight to Kathmandu. With 2 lives in the balance, the pilots fly at their max speed of 140 miles per hour.
The way she was bleeding so much, we were there on the right time at the right moment. Yeah, you are not a doctor, but you hope for the best. But sometimes it doesn't go that way.
20 agonizing minutes later, the helicopter arrives in Kathmandu.
Just a normal girl who was just having a baby. She had a misfortune to be bleeding so much.
She's taken to a nearby hospital for emergency surgery.
People die in the mountains all the time. So it's a part of life for us, part of our work. It's sad, but we have to deal with it in our own ways.
I wanted to be an astronaut like everyone else. That dream was not going to happen.
Everest rookie Ryan is at Lukla Airport playing with some new toys.
It's called the VEMD, the Vehicle Engine Multifunction Display. If they came right now and said, go to base camp and pick up 2 people and 100 kilograms of cargo, this is telling us we either got to get rid of some fuel or take less people. When you're doing the numbers, if you're unable to hover there, then we can't land there. The sum total of my experience landing that high is once. I'm nervous.
In remote northwestern Nepal, Jason and his team have found 20 climbers stranded overnight on a 21,000-foot glacier. It's too dangerous to land, but there is one other option. Jason will attempt to rescue the climbers one by one on a rope that hangs underneath the chopper. It's known as a long line rescue.
When you're going into a rescue situation with a long line on, there's quite a few hazards associated, You've got to control it. You've got to look after it. There's a lot to think about.
Jason needs the heli to be as light as possible, so Cheering strips it to the bare minimum, removing the seats and the doors.
I just want to do it properly. It looks like they're all alive, which is great news. I need a good 35 metre, because you can't see.
At 25, Cheering is the youngest long-line rescuer in Nepal.
My job is very risky. I never tell my mom. She's a little worried about me, you know.
Jason flies to a landing spot near the climber's location, where Cheering can attach himself to the bottom of the helicopter.
Oh, lots of wind, eh?
It's Cheering's job to hang on the end of the rope and pluck the climbers from danger one by one. His life is in Jason's hands.
When someone hangs on the long line, that is a risky part. Everything is slowed down.
To reach the climbers, Jason will push his helicopter close to its 23,000-foot limit. Long lining at that altitude involves extraordinary risk and demands great skill.
If the air is too thin, the engine can't produce enough power to maintain the rotor system. That's when you reach your limits. Something's got to give.
Cheering is now attached to a rope and dangling 100 feet below the helicopter.
What is your height, Justin?
19,000.
Sometimes if it is windy, the wind will catch them and they'll start swinging. We're talking to each other. I can see him in the mirror.
I'm going to do one more turn.
So I'm constantly looking at him.
Hey, Shring, you there? Okay. We're going to go up there.
You have to be extremely careful that the performance of the helicopter is suitable to maintain a stationary hover.
Now, Jason and Cheering need to rescue 20 people one by one as quickly as possible. The weather could worsen at any minute, and 2 of the climbers have critical altitude sickness.
Conditions were pretty difficult. My main concern was waking up in the morning at around 6 and see it is snowing. Because then that would be the final decision, that probably most of the people would die.
It was a real relief. It could have been a major disaster. I did my job with a good team. Yeah, it was satisfying that all those people, yeah, they can all go back to their villages and families. It's a good feeling. They're alive, you know. It does make me happy that I do my part, you know.
The climbers are rushed to the hospital. Jason can finally head home after a 26-hour rescue.
I'm back. Hey, remember me?
But across town, Siddhartha has one last mission. After emergency surgery, The young mother and her newborn are alive and well.
We were able to save her. So and feels very good. That feels really fulfilling. It's normal people you are helping. Yeah, like in our job, sometimes these are the perks we have to help people out.
This season on Everest Rescue.
Anybody on this channel copy 9 Lima Delta?
In a remote and hostile world.
Lima Delta, set course for base camp 9,000 climbing.
As climbers push into the death zone, the rescue pilots risk their lives to save them.
No bags! I want the bags out! Damn it! No bags! Let's go!
The potential of what could have happened there was so terrible. You don't want to become another victim.
It's not a bus where you can squeeze in 20 people and 3 on the roof. It's very dangerous. It's not a piece of cake.
When the alarm goes off, we have reached the limit. It's all bad from there. You can break through the bridge and the helicopter can roll over. If you pull it off, you're a hero. If you make a mistake, you crash.